Anj. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, thanks, Missy. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. We're doing this at the end of April. We're still currently on level 3 lockdown in New Zealand. But Mother's Day is actually coming up very soon. It's not this weekend, but the next weekend. And so I thought, as part of Empowermums Mother's Month, because I thought, actually, why are we celebrating Mother's Day only for one day? We should really celebrate Mother's Day as a whole month. I'm interviewing, empowering, and inspiring moms like you. And so I was introduced to you by our mutual friend, Penny. She said you should talk to Anj. She's a mom of 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. And she's got this business and just a firecracker, essentially. So that's how we met. And I'm really excited to be interviewing you today, and just to hear, I guess, your wisdom and your experience of being a mom, as well as a stepmom of 2 kids plus 1 girl, and how you're
Yeah,
finding
sure.
motherhood and juggling everything. It just sounds like you're doing it all. So I would love to hear more about that. So would you be able to tell us a little bit about your family?
Absolutely. Okay, so I have 2 teenage stepsons, and I have a 5-year-old daughter. So when I married my husband, the 2 boys were 12 and 8, I think they were, and so they were really quite young. Now they're 19 and 16.
Okay.
So in that nearly 8 years that we've been married, and in this blended situation, it's been very, very up and down.
Yeah.
I mean, thankfully the boys took to me right away. So like, we have an awesome relationship. We have a great relationship. We have a lot of laughs, and they, like, they regard me as a bonus mum. So that's really nice. Like, they've never once said to me, "Oh, you're not my mum. What do you know?" Or "You can't tell me that." They've never ever said that to me. They appreciate everything I do for them. But when I first married my husband, I mean, I come from a family of 4 girls, so I've
Oh,
only ever been around girls,
yeah.
and so, like, now having to mother figure these 2 boys, it was very challenging. Like, I felt like I'd almost entered into the stink zone, like, like, just, like, wheels everywhere and stinky socks and, like, all of that stuff. That was very foreign to me. And I'd walk into a room and I'm like, "What's that smell?" And they were like, "What smell?" All of them, like, gobsmacked. And I'd be like, "Oh my goodness, I'm the only one here that can, that it bothers." And so, like, it was really challenging, just getting used to those the differences of what's okay and what's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I found I had a lot of accepting to do in the role of that. But
Right.
I think it's the same whether they're your own children or you're not. Like, when you become a mom, you almost have to just accept so many things that you would never have accepted before.
Mm-hmm. Can you
Yeah.
give us more examples when it comes to your own daughter after you gave birth to her?
Yes. So after, on my first wedding anniversary, found out that I was pregnant with my daughter. So I barely had even a year with my husband, because our relationship was a bit of a whirlwind relationship, to be honest with you. Like, we met overseas. I was living in LA, he was in New Zealand. So everything happened so quickly. We met in March. By December, I had moved back to New Zealand.
Wow.
We were engaged. We got married in April, and
What?
then I was pregnant with my daughter a year later. Everything,
Wow.
it was
Yeah.
like a roller coaster, like, really,
Yeah.
really quickly. And I think a lot of it had to do with, I mean, we rushed because, I mean, I was getting older. I had my daughter at 38, and so after I got married to my husband, it was almost like, well, if we're going to have a child, like, we need to, make that decision and do it quickly. And it was it was insane. And I was in 2 minds. I'm like, should we, shouldn't we? I can barely handle these 2. And if it was another boy, I mean, oh boy. So I was very nervous about that, but it happened. And it happened really quickly. And before I could even backpedal and say, okay, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
Because when I found out that I was pregnant, I also found out that my own mother,
Mm.
in that same month, was diagnosed with lung cancer.
Oh no.
So
Gosh.
I mean, it was a lot to deal with.
Yeah, it's huge. Oh my
Here
gosh.
I am, like, I found out the great news that, okay, I'm going to be a mom, and then that
Yeah.
same, I think it was within the same week, actually, it was
Oh
just
my
such a
gosh.
blur. Found out, like that she had this condition now, and
Yeah.
that really hit me really bad.
Yeah.
But it was a blessing in disguise, because it's been 5 years now, and me being pregnant and having my daughter really helped with my own mother's healing process and
Okay.
her mindset. So, I mean, she just absolutely adored when I had my baby. I mean, she just doted upon her, and it was almost like a godsend for her.
Right. For
When my
your
daughter was
mother.
born, for my own mother
Ah.
as well.
In terms of just kind of there's this new baby in the family and yeah.
Exactly. It took her out of that mindset of being sick, and it
Mhm.
really assisted in her at that time. It assisted in her healing, and it picked her back up again, and her
Yeah.
health started to get better.
That sounds
So
so beautiful. And
yeah,
so how was she in terms of kind of supporting you, or like was she able to do a little bit of kind of helping with your
yeah,
baby?
she did, but she couldn't do as much as what, say, like a healthy, fit mother could help you
Mm,
with. And I mean that's the other thing I was going to say as well, is that, I mean, even though I had mothered those two boys, and I sort of I'm a bit OCD. I'm a bit of a control freak. I like to I planned. I was as organized as anyone could possibly be for this child, my daughter, to
yeah.
arrive. But I mean, one of the things that I could tell any new mom is, no matter how prepared you think you're going to be, like,
Mhm.
there is nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, that can prepare you for the day that that little baby arrives. And it just throws all your theories out the window, all the books that you might have read, everything, because every baby is different. And when Shania was born, she struggled with feeding. Like, she just
Yeah.
wouldn't latch properly, and then and I was determined to breastfeed, and then even bottle feeding, she was very fussy and
Mm,
just wouldn't drink. And even to this day, like, she's a picky eater, like super
mm,
extra picky.
mm.
And that was really tough, because I felt like not a failure, but I thought, what am I doing wrong? Like, I see all these other mothers breastfeeding their babies, like it's like this beautiful romantic experience, like it just flows and it's just so easy.
Yeah.
And I think it's a fictitious picture. Like, I mean, it's not, in reality, it's not like that.
Mhm.
Or it can be, if it is, great.
Mm.
But I think, don't put that pressure on yourself, like to expect it to just be ease and flow, because it
Yeah.
is a challenge. It rocks your world.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
What were
mum was able to help me, but not as much. So I had to do a lot of figuring out myself. And I was the first one in my family to have a baby. So
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Gosh. So what were some of the expectations that you had before having your daughter that was just kind of, gone out of the window as soon as she arrived? So you talked about feeding, there was one of it.
Yeah,
Was
and
the
even
cost
just and even
control.
just maintaining some element of my lifestyle, which I thought,
Yeah.
like, I was active, I was fit, I wanted to, I had this picture perfect vision of me putting her in the stroller in the morning, going for walks,
What?
grabbing a takeaway coffee, and like everything being just so easy.
Yeah.
And it was very, very different. Like, come morning time, I would just literally, my husband would go to work, and I just wanted to sleep, and I just wanted
Yeah.
to rest, and I was exhausted from just being up all night, and
Yeah.
even just confusion. I was low on milk supply, so I was always at the pump as well. So after I'd put her to sleep, I'd be pumping to
Right.
stimulate, and that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's exhausting. And you also have your two sons as well at the same time,
Oh
right?
yes.
You forgot
In
about
fact,
that.
you
You have
just
the two
reminded me
teenagers.
you just reminded me of a funny story, and this might make people laugh as well, because so, like I told you, I had trouble with the breastfeeding, so I'd be pumping. And when my daughter was born, she was born in December. So January, February, when I was trying to get this milk supply going, it was hot. It
Yeah.
was summertime here. So I'd be like literally not wanting to wear too many clothes, because it was like hot and sweaty. And that year in particular, we had a heat wave, and so it was exceptionally it was bad.
Yeah.
And I remember one time, the boys one day, like, they were with me, and they were like, oh, we're going to go to the movies. And so I thought, oh, cool, they're gone. I'm free to just literally walk around and not worry about anything. well, because we live walking distance from the cinemas. We live in, where we live. And so I guess they came back because the movie was sold out. And they walked in on me with a double breast pump. And I will never forget that look on their face, like, oh my gosh. It was, and it's one thing that, like, even they're like, oh, we'll never forget that moment. I mean, not that they could see anything, but it was just the fact that they could hear these pumps, and it was like a milking machine.
Yeah.
It was just crazy. So yeah, like, it was a challenge because it's hard enough, getting used to bringing that little baby home and focusing on just the baby and myself. But now I had two young boys who were on school holidays as well, because it was December, January. And so they were home, and I was, like, just constantly just trying to figure out, okay, what can I give them for lunch, or what, just fending for their needs, as well as getting used to being a new mom was very, very challenging. And I definitely lacked support there.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that would be really difficult. I mean, having the two boys, and like you said, you had to kind of meet their needs. Yeah, I mean, they can, survive on their own a little bit. Like, they know how to go to the toilet at least, but still, like, just meeting a baby's need and your own, and also two extra human beings, possibly your husband as well. That's a lot for anyone to do. So how did you think you managed, and what advice would you give to moms who may be in similar situation?
Yeah, I mean, it was really challenging at the time because I didn't have very much support from either sides of the family, because we lived a bit further away and stuff as well. And so, and the boys they were with us week on, week off. And so, like, for a week, I felt like I could focus on myself and the baby. And then the week that the boys were back again, it was like, okay, it's chaos again. And so there was nothing I could do about that, because I didn't have, I didn't have the support and help of the other party to sort of say, okay, well, I'll just keep the boys, like, even I remember coming home from hospital on a Friday, and they came back to us that very same day.
Oh gosh, yeah.
In fact, like, I even had an elective cesarean with my daughter, because I wanted to make sure that she was born on the week that they weren't going to be with us, because I wanted the full support of my husband.
Yeah.
So that's how challenging it got, to the point where I couldn't even allow things to sort of flow naturally. It was like, okay, nope, she's going to be born on Friday, because if the boys go back to their mum on Friday, that way I've got my husband for a week, and then they can come back that week after. And I was back home from hospital and struggling to, just get used to this newborn baby. And it's and it is challenging in lots of different ways. Like, one of the things that I don't think a lot of mums admit to is the fact that it takes a while to bond with that baby as well.
Lovely.
It's not an instant, oh my gosh, I've fallen in love with this child. Like, I struggle to bond with her, and I never thought that I would experience that.
Yeah, because you always get that movie kind of picture, right? Like, you get the baby and you're like, oh my God, and you just like instantly fall in love. But it's actually a myth.
It is.
Most of the time, we're sleep deprived, we're tired. Like, it's been a trauma that we've gone through. Yeah.
And it was just, I felt like she didn't like me, because, like, I'd put her at the breast and she was like a little cat. She'd be like this, because the milk wasn't flowing very quickly. So all I could feel were her little scratches on my chest, and she was just like struggling. She wanted more. And I was just like, I'm sorry, I'm doing the best that I can. And when my husband would comfort her, she would calm down. And if I tried to comfort her in that same way, she wouldn't calm down. And it's, and I now realize it was probably part of that scent, because she could smell.
She could smell you.
She can smell you, and then they know. She could probably smell my anxiety as well, I think. And she could sense that. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, babies do smell their moms and probably just be like, I'm hungry. And
she's my food source.
Food source. And so at what point do you think you started bonding with your daughter?
Sorry, say that again?
At what point do you think you started bonding with your daughter?
I think after a good couple of weeks, I thought, I'd read about skin to skin, and I thought, okay, no, maybe I need to just do more of that. But because there was just so much noise around me, like so many people as well.
Yeah.
I struggled to do that, but I decided, no, I'm going to lock myself in my room and just try and do it. And it was super hot, and, and I mean, that did help. And I think honestly, what helped is me giving myself a break and
Mm,
realizing that I'm doing the best that I can
yes.
at that particular time.
Yeah, and that is so important for moms to hear, or expectant moms to hear as well,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Just that you're always doing the best that you can with the
Yeah.
time, energy, and resources that you have.
Yeah.
And something like bonding with your daughter that would come in time once you're not so exhausted, when you do have the time, and when you're not surrounded by smelly teenagers running around.
Yes.
Trying to meet their needs and constantly figuring out what to feed them, right?
Yeah.
And it does take time for a lot of people to
Mhm.
bond with their child. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now your daughter is 5, and you've got a 19 and a 16-year-old, did you say?
Yeah.
So a huge age range.
Yes.
So how do you think you're managing, I guess, in terms of those different developmental needs and different developmental stages? So you've got
Oh my gosh, it's so
adult
different.
and a
It's
child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so different now. And the challenges that I faced back then have gone.
Mhm.
But now it's a new set of challenges. I mean, when you're trying to deal with teenagers and some of the things that they want to bring into the house, and some of the things that don't necessarily align with having a 5-year-old around, like it has been a bit of a challenge, but I think the biggest thing for me has been putting clear boundaries in place,
Mhm.
and I think and not feeling guilty for it. Like, I mean, you guys, I sort of tell all the boys, I'm like, you guys, you can do whatever you like, but the thing is, like, I have to also protect my daughter. So I mean, I don't know, like they used to tend to like a lot of sleepovers and all of that with their teenagers, and I mean, even at the age of 19, and I'm like, I don't really feel comfortable with that anymore.
Mhm.
If it was 10-year-olds, okay, fine, but like, I have a 5-year-old daughter as well, and I have enough mouths to feed and enough kids around. I don't really want to do that. So, but they know that now. Like, they know that, okay, I'm just not big on that kind of stuff, and so they
Mm,
don't even ask me anymore. And
mm,
that's the problem in some ways, because they know that, okay, I'm good with anything else. I'm like, you can have your friends over from the time you wake up till the time you go to bed, but I want them gone by the time I go to bed. So, and that's just my own personal preference. I know everyone's different, but that was just my rule, I guess, or just
yeah.
my thing. And because they know that it's not an issue, because it's like, I'm not being difficult and saying, well, I don't want your friends over at all, but it's just establishing boundaries and going, yeah, operating within those parameters, and then that's fine. And then,
Yeah.
of course, when you have girlfriends coming into the picture, then that's another challenge too.
So do your 2 boys have girlfriends?
No, the older one does, but again, it's just, I mean, she's great. She's a lovely girl, but it's just, again, having boundaries in place. It's not okay to be locked up in your bedroom for a few hours, and my 5-year-old going, "Mummy, what are they doing in there?" Like, or just even having those boundaries, like, okay, it's a decent time now to go home. Like, if I'm going to bed, I want you to go home too. It's just laying down those boundaries. And I mean, I think if you're compassionate and clear in a way that you're kind of expressing what you're okay with,
Yeah.
and not feeling guilty about it, because I used to feel guilty. I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel so guilty for making maybe them feel like they can't be at home when they're here. But at the
Mm,
same time, I'm like, well, we're both trying to feel like we want to feel at home here,
mm,
and under the same roof. So there's a lot of different things that you've got to just put into place. And I think if you make your boundaries clear and concise, and
yeah.
you establish them in a way that's compassionate, like in a
Mm,
caring way, then it shouldn't be a problem. Like, I've noticed it hasn't been a problem.
yeah. And that probably speaks more to the relationship that you do have with your sons, right? In terms of that
Yeah.
healthy relationship, and they know
Mm.
that when you say certain things like that, it's more for you, and also it's more about your boundaries rather than
Yeah.
just because you're the mom. Yeah, so it definitely sounds like it does speak to that good, healthy relationship that you have built over the years with them.
Yeah, I think, and they kind of get it. Like, they kind of understand me. Like, they know when when I reach that peak where they kind of go, okay, well, she just needs some time out, because it is a lot to deal with. And I have sat down with them as well in different instances where I have lost the plot, because let's face it, as mothers with our own children, we lose the plot.
Yeah, we do.
So I've sat down. I'm like, look, this is, and I just explain to them, and I go, look, this is the reason why I feel the way I feel. Okay,
Mm,
I'm like, I shouldn't have maybe said a couple of things, but it's okay. And they are completely okay with that. And then I think the nice thing about having boys is that they're not as emotional as girls.
Have you found that? Like, I guess your daughter's only 5, but have you found that she's quite
Yes,
emotional compared to the 2 boys?
yes, like the smallest thing will just trip her and trigger her. And it's just like, wow, I didn't realize that that really bothered you. Like, even if I do something for her and she goes, I wanted to do that myself, and she'll be in tears. So it is very different. I think having, I mean, from what I've found, because I've grown up in a house full of girls as well.
Yeah.
Um, it was, yeah, girls are just a lot more emotional, and a lot more things bother them than boys. Boys are, boys have their basics. It's like, as long as you feed me, as long as you let me watch sports, as long as you let me go play ball or whatever,
Yeah.
and I'm good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
fine. The
Yeah.
needs are pretty basic.
Whereas girls are kind of more emotionally complex, right? Even from
Yes.
a very young age, you can see that with your daughter.
Oh my goodness, yes. It's like, I want to spend time with you. Can I help you in the kitchen? Can we do this? And it's like, at the moment, that's what she's really into. It's like, I just want to spend time. So
That's cute, but also you just like, I also need time for myself.
yes,
Time out, yeah. So
yeah.
how do you take care of yourself as a mom? Do you have any self-care routine, or do you do something every day that you just kind of try to nourish yourself and keep you going as a mom?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I know I need to do more of it. I don't have any, I used to have a consistent regime where I'd be like, okay, I'll wake up half an hour before my daughter and I'll do my mindfulness and meditation, or I'll
Hmm.
do some journaling, or just even have some quiet time to myself. And I think that's really important. So I know I need to be better at that again. So what I do though is, whenever I have pockets of moments during the day and I think, okay, my daughter's occupied, I don't have anything to do right now, then I will go into another room and even just sit and read for 10 minutes. But
Ah,
it's really small time slots. It's not
yeah.
like I have a lot of time
Mm,
just for myself.
mm. But I think that's important for everyone else to hear, all moms to hear, because I think often we get into that kind of perfectionistic thinking, like, I need to do yoga for 60 minutes, or like, I need
Yeah.
to read for a whole hour, or else I would not do it. But actually, just
Mhm.
5 minutes here or 10 minutes there can be enough to just sustain you like throughout
Yeah.
the day. You don't have to have this massive chunk of time.
Exactly. Take the pressure off, and like, done is better than perfect. So even if you do a little bit, it's better than having the perfect half an hour workout or the perfect 1 hour, whatever it was, like, it's, yeah.
That's really good strategy. So reading is something that nourishes you, and just that little bit of time here and there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what would you like for Mother's Day? Or what do the boys usually do for you or your daughter for Mother's Day?
They usually take me out for brunch,
Oh,
which I don't think will be happening this year.
no. They can make brunch. Can they
They can
cook?
make, yeah, they can make brunch. Yeah, they'll have to wake up super early to make brunch. But I think just spending quality time, really, and just being present to each other, because I think, life gets so busy. I have my schedule, they have their schedules. We're literally passing each other by all the time.
Mm,
Even my 5-year-old, like, we're literally passing each other by. I mean, with the exception of the last 4 weeks, because I've been homeschooling her as well, in between working on my business, in between being a mum and taking care of everything else. Like, my husband's been really busy as well. But
yeah.
I think it's really important to just be present and be intentional about it.
And how do you make that kind of conscious decision throughout the day to be present with your kids?
I'm really good at that, and I'm really good at enforcing that in my family as well. So if I have a no device policy at the dinner table. So
Mhm.
when you come for dinner, you leave your devices upstairs. That's been my number one thing since probably 8 years since I've come into this situation
Mm.
in my marriage. Because when I first got married to my husband, it was like he was on his iPhone, they were both on their iPods, and I'm sitting there going, "Are we going to have a conversation? We're sitting at the table, like, no, this is not okay."
Yeah.
So I think just being present, and they're really, really good at that. Like, if I call them downstairs and I say, okay, let's just sit and have a conversation, or I'm cooking in the kitchen, but sit and keep me company, or here, grate some cheese, or whatever. It's like getting them involved, and just, it's amazing how many conversations come up when you do that. So at the moment, I've been with the 19-year-old, I'll tell him, so he's now in uni, he's second year uni. He is busy. He has a very busy schedule, but he has the biggest appetite in the house and he loves to eat. And so I told him, I'm like, I think it's important for you to also learn how to cook. What do you think? And he was like, yeah, I don't really have time. And I'm like, okay, well, how about this? I'm like, you pick a day of the week, it doesn't matter which day. I mean, it can change week to week, but you pick the day, and it's just an hour and a half with me in the kitchen. And whether you're chopping an onion, cutting a potato, or grating some cheese or whatever, but you can cook with me in the kitchen and I can teach you a few things. And so we've been doing that for the last probably 6 months, and
Great.
It's been really, really good. And I mean, that's how I found out he had a girlfriend. Like he opened up to me as we were chopping vegetables, and my husband wasn't around. And he was like, oh, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to take her, or what, and those vulnerable conversations start coming across when you do things in an environment that is non-threatening and you're trying to have some fun. Like, I'll make him a hot chocolate and we'll have a few laughs, and we'll just, and I'll even share some of my vulnerable moments with him during that time as well. So we're building that trust up even more.
Yeah, and I think that's so important for boys as well, because they like to do things rather than just talk, right? So if you get them to sit down on the couch and like, let's talk about your relationship, he's not gonna go there, right? Whereas it's like, like boys are just tend to just talk and share things when they're doing things like, playing soccer or rugby or whatever. So that's a really great tip as well for moms of boys or teenage boys in general. Just get them involved to do something hands-on.
And having that one-on-one time is really, really beneficial, because if your husband's not there, or if none of the other siblings are there, it's a great time for them to be able to open up to you if there is anything going on with their social circle, with their education, with anything.
That's right. And then I'm sure he really values that, right? And then not only he's getting one-on-one time with you, and he's getting, kind of good advice, I guess, in terms of relationship. But he's also learning a life skill. Cooking is a life skill, and he'll take that for years to come. Yeah.
And he's been able to use those life skills over the last month. Like I told you, they've been away, and he'll message me going, I cooked today because I had to. And
I survived, Mom.
He did, and he's like, it's really great that like those skills are really valuable. But it's funny because at the time it would be like, I'm like, well, pick the day. You pick the day, but you have to pick a day. And it would be like, oh, okay, fine. I won't go to the gym on Wednesday. Then I'll just come home and cook. I'm like, gee, I wish I could go to the gym on a Wednesday, but like. Yeah, it's like giving up. He was willing to give up something to stick to that commitment that he had made to me about cooking once a week.
Oh, that sounds so lovely. I'm sure he can make a great brunch then, because you have taught him how to do it.
Yeah.
Leading up for Mother's Day. So one last question. What would you like to say to your mom on Mother's Day?
Oh, gee, that's... To my mom, like my mom's always done everything for everyone, and she's always given like all of her time to people, like, and even at the cost of like her own happiness in her regard. So I think to my mom, I think it's, I see her as a hero, but then I also kind of see her also as like, okay, you did too much and I don't want to do that. So like, that's why I'm really big on boundaries, and I put those things in place. So I think telling my mom, like, thank you for the example, and just everything that she has done and been. Like, I mean, I am today because of her. Like, I'm really close to my mom, and she's taught me a lot of good values. She's taught me how to be a good mother, even when I married my husband and I didn't know how to be one instantly. She would tell me, to be patient, and of course I was never patient. I was not born patient. But like, she's given a lot of good advice to me, and helped me think about things outside of myself. And so I think, I'd just like to tell my mum, like, she's my hero, and that she'll always be that wind beneath my wings.
Oh, that's very cute. And thank you so much for your time, Ange. I know that you're a busy mom of 3 running a business
That's
and
okay.
homeschooling.
It was a pleasure to be here. And hey, I'm all about if you know my story, or if anything I say can inspire and help someone, then yeah, I'm definitely an advocate for that. So you're welcome, and thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.